The ick is a fascinating and often frustrating experience, a sudden and sometimes overwhelming feeling of repulsion toward a romantic partner over what may seem like minor or even trivial behaviors. It can strike unexpectedly, turning attraction into aversion in an instant. But what exactly is happening in the brain when we experience the ick? Neuroscientific research suggests that this reaction is not just a personal quirk, but a deeply ingrained biological response, rooted in both evolutionary psychology and the brain's complex system of sensory and emotional processing. Understanding the neuroscience of the ick can offer insight into why it happens, whether it serves a purpose, and how we can respond to it in a way that lead to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. When we first meet someone, especially in a romantic context, our brains are flooded with neurotransmitters such as dopamine, which creates feelings of excitement and pleasure. This initial stage of attraction is often idealized. We see the person through the lens of potential, crafting an image of them that may not yet align with reality. The ick occurs when something they do unexpectedly disrupts this ideal, shattering the illusion and forcing us to see them as a real, imperfect person. This shift is processed in the brain's anterior insular cortex, which is responsible for integrating sensory information with emotional reactions. Studies on misophonia, a condition in which individuals experience extreme irritation to certain sounds, suggest that some people may have a heightened sensitivity to minor stimuli, triggering stronger reactions to behaviors that others might barely notice. Evolution also plays a role in the development of the ick. From a biological standpoint, mate selection has always been crucial for survival and reproduction. Early humans needed to choose partners based on subtle cues that indicated health, genetic compatibility, and social status. Even today, the brain engages in unconscious pattern matching, associating certain behaviors with past negative experiences or perceived incompatibilities. In some cases, the ick may serve as a warning system, alerting us to traits that could lead to long-term dissatisfaction. However, in many modern dating situations, this instinct may misfire, causing us to reject potential partners over harmless quirks or momentary awkwardness rather than genuine incompatibility. Interestingly, the brain does not process all icks equally. In long-term relationships, the same behaviors that initially triggered discomfort may later be reinterpreted as endearing traits. This shift is partly due to the brain's release of oxytocin, a hormone associated with bonding and attachment. Over time, as a relationship deepens and trust builds, the stress response linked to the ick diminishes, and those small annoyances become part of what makes a partner unique rather than a reason for rejection. This suggests that the ick is not necessarily an objective measure of compatibility, but rather a reaction that can change with context and emotional investment. The ick is also influenced by personality traits and social conditioning. People who score high in perfectionism or narcissism may be more prone to experiencing it, as they tend to have rigid expectations of how a partner should behave. Similarly, individuals with heightened disgust sensitivity are more likely to react strongly to behaviors they find off-putting, even if those behaviors are relatively insignificant. Gender differences also play a role, with research suggesting that women are more likely to experience the ick than men. This may be due to evolutionary pressures, as women historically had to be more selective in mate choice to ensure long-term support and stability. It may also be influenced by modern social and cultural factors, including media portrayals of dating and relationships that reinforce high standards and expectations. While the ick can be an important gut instinct, it's crucial to recognize when it is a helpful signal and when it may be leading us to unnecessarily dismiss potential connections. If the ick arises from genuine concerns, such as disrespect, poor hygiene, or behavior that contradicts core values, it is likely serving its intended purpose in mate selection. However, if it is triggered by something minor, such as an awkward moment or a fashion choice, it may be worth pausing and reconsidering whether the reaction is based on something meaningful or simply an automatic response to perceived imperfection. The key to overcoming the ick when it is not truly reflective of incompatibility is to cultivate self-awareness and openness. Instead of immediately rejecting someone over a small turnoff, It can be helpful to reflect on why that behavior triggered a reaction. Is it tied to personal biases? Is it influenced by unrealistic expectations shaped by social media and pop culture? Would it matter in the long run if the relationship were otherwise fulfilling? By asking these questions, we can move beyond snap judgments and make more intentional choices in our relationships. Ultimately, no one is perfect, and the pursuit of an idealized partner who never makes an awkward move or says the wrong thing is likely to lead to perpetual dissatisfaction. The most successful relationships are not those free of quirks and imperfections, but those in which partners learn to accept and even appreciate each other's uniqueness. The ick is not a definitive measure of a relationship's potential. It is simply a momentary reaction, one that can be examined, understood, and even overcome. By shifting our mindset from seeking flawlessness to embracing authenticity, we open ourselves up to deeper connections and the possibility of finding true, lasting love.